Welcome once again to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 30-year veteran writer, illustrator, publisher, talent scout of comics, science fiction, fantasy, and horror and role-playing games. I thought I had 4 people in the room, and all of a sudden I have none. What happened? That's okay. It is a Monday, August 22nd, 2022. And our theme this week is based on Heavy Metal Magazine. So, of course, we have the attitude of Heavy Metal Thunder. So let's go ahead and move on forward to our first book. Heavy Metal number 312 for $13.99. Publisher Heavy Metal Media. All the books will be published by Heavy Metal Media. In this particular episode, various artists and writers. This covers by Jaime Sorayama, genre science fantasy fiction anthology, released December 2021. This issue sported 4 different Jaime Sorayama covers, all 4 images featured inside and during a profile article on the artist. It also introduces us to 2 new storylines, Avenging Demon Princes, an adaptation of a classic science fiction story by Jack Vance, adapted by Joe Morvan and Paulo Tresky. Adrian James is the next feature, written by Matthew Medney and Bruce Edwards with art by Santa Fung. Also featured are Done in One short stories Defina by Michael Lopez and David Aguado, and Basic Time Travel by PJ Katakutan. Rounding out the issue are chapters of Swamp God by Ron Mars and Company, Star Wars by Steve Orlando and Company, and Black Beacon by, Lindsay and Perez. Those are all storylines that have been ongoing with the title. What did I think? Well, one thing I didn't like was that the solicitation claimed there was going to be an interview with Jim Shooter, which is absent in the issue. And unfortunately, we never do see the interview in the books. I thought maybe it would come in later, but it hasn't yet. Maybe they did it online instead. The Sorayama feature was too brief. I would have preferred a more in-depth interview with him about the covers. As for the stories, I like Avenging Demon Princes all right, but keep in mind I know who Jack Vance is and what the story is based on and what it's supposed to be. I am not certain that people that are unfamiliar with Vance's work are going to completely get the story. Not because the adaptation is poor by any means, but the Demon Princess is a series of 5 novels, so there's a lot that has to be truncated and edited out of a presentation of this format, because you're only doing it like 18 to 30 pages a segment, if you're lucky. Adrian James is a fairly stereotypical SF manga style story where one of the protagonists is arriving in an alien world and meets with her boss, who is Adrian James, who is also already stationed there to try and find some information and learn the customs of the locals. They go out to hunt with little lizard people and stumble across a sort of dinosaur, possibly a Therosaurus, and the 2 women have to try to defend themselves and as well as their allies. They manage to kill one of them, not realizing that there's a second, who snatches a necklace off of Adrian's neck and takes off. It's a fairly straightforward story, but nothing that really jumps at me yet. Ron Mars' Swamp God has never really grabbed me in the storyline, but there's nothing inherently bad about it. It's just there. Basic Time Travel is a really good short story, possibly the best feature in this issue. It shows different attempts in human history to commit time travel and the results, explaining why these attempts resolve the way they are depicted, with a brief oversimplification of space time travel, though what is explained seems to be accurate with what we do know of science today. And the ending is really funny too. Overall, it's a solid issue, if not a slight bit underwhelming, not but bit. Not every issue of Heavy Metal is great. Some of them are just kind of there, but still entertaining, and that's what this one is. It's for mature readers, and it is 3.5 stars. We'll take a quick look at some of the artwork in the issue here in a moment. Here's the book. Hopefully, the sheen of the paper stock won't be too much for the stuff. Let's see. Here's some of the Doom Prince's art by Paolo Tereschi. I do like the art, very nice. That is one thing I do like about Heavy Metal. They do tend to get some nice artists that aren't the standard look for the mainstream American comics. Whether just because they're hiring more globally or whatever, I don't know. They just seem to have artists that are more unique. And I happen to like that a lot better. This is the artwork for Adrian James. As I said, very manga-esque type look to the art. It doesn't look bad by any means. Pop culture's in the house. How you doing, Pop? There's that dinosaur that they run into. This is the time travel story. And basically, they're talking about different periods again of time, but we've done it several times in the past, and where the bodies go and what happens. Like there's an astronaut, a Russian astronaut, that shows up, and he teleports to a different part where he's too far away from the Earth, and he basically lives for a few minutes while his oxygen in his spacesuit lasts, but that's about it. And that's because everything moves relative to time and space. So, I don't want to show that because that'll give away the ending of the story. This is the Star Wars story by Steve Orlando and company. It's nice artwork again. It's a very Sailor Moonish type story, though. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's not bad. Whoops, pardon me. North 3 is also in the house. More artwork from the from the book. As you can see, a lot of different art styles featured in the magazine. Which one is this? I can't read without my light where it's at. So let's see. Oh, okay. This is back to Avenging Demon Princes at the very back of the book. There's 2 segments in this book for that. So anyway, this is a 3.5 star. Let's go ahead and move on to the next issue. Number 313 with a cover of Adrian James by Ivan Smirnov. This one opens with a 2-page short entitled Valhalla by Brendan Columbus and Philip Silvera, drawn by Diego Yapur. Continues with a story entitled Valentine by David Arquette, yes, the actor, and Cliff Dorman, with art by Bernard Chang. Next is Chapter 2 of The Apprentice, followed by Darkwing Chapter 8 by Matthew Medney and German Ponce. Next up is a special preview of Death Defied by Joe Harrison. It's not Federico, it's Federico Pietroban. Next is Arise, Chapter 6 by George C. Romero and Diego Yapur. Digital Lure by Isaac Escora and Ron Mars' Swamp God fill out the issue. What do I think? It's pretty bad to feature Adrian James on your cover and not have a chapter story to go with it. I have to wonder what's up with the editors when they do stuff like this, and there's a couple of mistakes like this as we go through the series that kind of bother me. I hated Valhalla for the lettering. It's very difficult to read. It took me out of what little story there was, since it's only a 2-page story completely. And I just don't care about it because of how the lettering was done. Arquette's Valentine was much better than I thought it would be, but Chang's art really carries the story. Demon Princes Part 2 was fine. Again, I'm not sure if those of you who are unfamiliar with the source material will entirely get the story, but it is fairly well executed. Darkwing, it had been a while since I've seen the last chapter, and I'd pretty much forgotten the story, unfortunately, so it's nice to look at, but I'm going to have to go back and to the very beginning and try and reread the story and catch up. That's one of the negative things about doing an anthology, is that you might forget certain segments of a story and you have to go back to the back issues to follow it, but it is what it is. Death Defied. I'm not exactly sure why it's called a special preview when the regular story starts next issue. It's just there. To me, a special preview is either, maybe it's a prologue to the story. I don't know, but we'll see. The Rise has never really interested me. I do think Yapur does a better job on the art in this section than he did on Valhalla, but the story by Romero has yet to grab me. It's just generic Romero type stuff. Digital Lore was the star feature of this issue. It's a done in one story, a silent story of the future where a young woman goes out on a date with an app that makes her body look like her avatar. A friend of hers warns her not to because there's a demonstration going on in the city where violence may commence, where the demonstration is going to be held. But she ignores her friend, goes out on a date, and is generally having a good time with her date, when a demonstration goes bad and the building that controls the apps gets attacked and their app goes offline, and both she and her date revert to their true selves, and since neither is what they seem to be visually, they get into an argument that ends in tragedy. Very well done story. Kudos to that selection by the editors. Again, Swamp God is what it is. Not much to say there. For those who don't know what Swamp God is, Ron Mars is doing kind of like this story that takes place in the Civil War, where Confederate and Union soldiers are out in the swamp, and they meet an elder god, and stuff happens. Anyway, the issue is carried by Demon Princes and Digital Lore. For me personally, I would like it if Digital Lore received a notice. It should get, because I'd shortlisted for the Eisner for Best Short Story for next year, but I doubt it will get it because it's one of those things that, since heavy metal isn't really mainstream comics per se, it'll probably get overlooked. Again, mature readers, I give it 3.5 stars. Some heavy metal stories do, and some don't. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look again. Here's the cover again. Very nicely done. I do like it. I just wish this had been a cover for an issue where she is actually appearing in the book. This is the art for Valhalla. And again, it's not bad art, but it's just soldiers against aliens and Cro-Magnons and all sorts of weird stuff. And the lettering is very hard to read. I don't know if you can. I can't even make it come clear enough on the lettering. But as it progresses, it becomes more. It's like each one of the word balloon or caption boxes has lettering that looks more and more ancient, and then it gets more and more recent to as the story goes, to the point where you can finally read it in where it says, the living world, this would call him a Matha. That's about, yep. Yeah, they're $13.99, but they are 120 to 140 page books, so that's not a bad price for them. Okay, this is David Arquette's story by Bernard Chang. Let me go ahead and get to one of the. It's not a bad story. It's just that I'm trying to find the better part of the artwork for it. There's some of the artwork for that story. The lead character gets hit by, the Cupid angel right through him, pulls the arrow out and challenges the angel and takes over the role, basically. And again, if you're familiar with Bernard Chang's art, it's pretty, it's usual stuff. It's not bad. Back to the two Demon Princes. It's a little bit darker than you in the color scheme this time, but it's well done. A little bit more of that. This is pretty lengthy, so let me find the next chapter. That's still that chapter. Okay. They advertise Black Beacon and then go into the first page of the Darkwing segment. And the Darkwing thing is kind of interesting. There's pilots who find out that there's a conspiracy going on, and they break into their own headquarters and try to extricate things, and this is one of the later chapters where the lead pilot is attacking the group that's holding humanity's secrets, I guess you could say. We're all kind of in the Matrix type thing again. They do a lot of that stuff in here with characters going into the Matrix type stuff, but they expose that, and where exactly they're going to go from there, we don't know for sure, but this is the Death Defied preview. Nothing too spectacular. Is the book still? Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like 128 to 140 pages, and yeah, it's still monthly. This goes from, we're going to be talking from December 2021 up through like June or July of this year, and the next issue comes out tomorrow or this week. So go figure. I believe this is from The Rise. And again, this is Diego Yapur's art, and I like this art much better than the Valhalla stuff that you saw a little bit ago. But because it is what it is, something that I wanted to pitch to heavy metal is probably not going to be picked up, so there's no point in sending it, because it's too, what I want to do is a little bit too similar in storyline idea, even though it isn't. It is to me enough that I would say no. This is the Digital Lore, start of the Digital Lore storyline, and that figure that you see is not her real figure at all, as we'll show you in a minute. She's out on her date with a guy, and you see all the different avatar people out there, and then the cops come looking for everybody and going to arrest them. And this is when they lose their avatars. Whoops. There we go. As you can see, she's much shorter and fatter in real existence. And he doesn't have the blonde hair, and he doesn't look quite as good either, but he's nowhere near as different as his avatar. And of course, he basically shames her and treats her like crap afterwards. So she basically kills the guy for it, and she ends up going to jail. I have done draw streams on Saturdays before. That's not something I'm going to. It's something I have to, come back to. Exactly when I'm going to do that, either this week or next week, I don't know yet. Depends on how busy this week is. So yeah, eventually I'll be back to that, and those will run about probably 2 to 4 hours. That's what they usually do. If you look on my video archive on my channel. You can see some of the live draws I've done. It's just that it's been a while since I've done one. I think it's the last time I did one was in May, but I have done them. So that's 313. Let's go ahead and move on to 314. As soon as I get this in the bag. Now, some of you asked me to do it this way. How do you guys like it, doing it this way versus the scanned imagery? I'm just curious. This is Heavy Metal 314. There are 2 covers to this, of course. There were usually multiple covers to most of these issues. I just happen to usually get only one. But there are, like this particular issue, I did get both covers because I happen to like both covers, okay? But this cover is by Kim Jung-ji, and then the second one is done by Greg Hildebrandt, which I'll show you in a moment. This came out in February. This issue kicks off with Death Defied Part 1, Joe Harris. They're bagged, they're not boarded. But anyway, and Federico Pitron. It continues with the next chapter of Swamp God. Adrian James, Chapter 2. A short story titled Cyberarchy 2 by Matt Hardy, possibly the WWE wrestler. They don't say as much, but it could be him. And Clark Bent, which sounds like an artistic pseudonym, but I don't know. I've never heard of him before. There's an interview with Greg Hildebrandt, which is a bit short, but reasonable for an interview. Star Wars Chapter 8 by Steve Orlando and Friends. A new story called Engagers by Medney Edwards and John Roy Mercado. Moonlight Phase 3 by Dan Vogler and Nadir Milan. Chastity and Ezra by Ryan, Ryan Hughes, and Something Seems Off by Chris Anderson, and Savage Circus Chapter 10 round out this issue. I definitely like this cover by Hildebrandt much better than the other one, but I did get both of this particular issue, though. Death Defied was meh, as was Swamp God, typical. Adrian James actually improves a little bit this go around, as the writing and the art were better this issue. Cyberarchy 2 sure seems like something that wrestler Matt Hardy would come up with, and he has written comics before, so I'm going to presume it's written by him until someone tells me otherwise. I thought it was a self-contained story, but it turns out it's part 1. But it's a crazy post-apocalyptic story where humans use robots to farm these giant bugs who can basically eat the humans if the robots don't keep control of the bug population. And a woman scientist who was supposed to correct a glitch in their robot's AI system gets eaten in a bug attack, but she gets reconstituted later somehow because they got this thing going on where you can reconstitute your body after you've been killed. The next day after she's been eaten, she gets reconstituted that evening. They go back to work, but this next day her husband is eaten, but when he gets to be reconstituted at the woman's house, or their apartment rather, a bug comes out and the robots don't protect the woman because the glitch in their programming made them think that the humans are there to be farmed for the bugs as food, and because she was eaten, the glitch in the programming code wasn't corrected the day before when it needed to be, and the glitch affected all the robots who now believe that they are the sentient dominant entities on the planet. To be continued. Very weird stuff. The art's okay. Star Wars is all right. Again, it's kind of this Sailor Moon type weird thing. One of the issues I have with Heavy Metal is they can't seem to keep these stories going consistently on issue-to-issue basis. We've already talked about that, though. The only one that seems to be regularly appearing month to month is Swamp God. I don't know why. That's the only one that seems to be, hit every month, but it does. If I wasn't reading everything in one sitting, I would have forgotten the storyline from issue 312 by the time I got to issue 314 on Star Wars. And I love the full page ad at the end of this. It says Darkwing will return next issue. Not. Engagers is just perverse, not visually, mind you, but conceptually. The concept is a company comes up with a computer AI program that can supposedly give you a continual pleasure feedback. Now, all I'm thinking is, who the hell in their right mind would want to create that? That's dangerous. Nobody would ever want to leave the AI virtual world if all you get is pleasure response constantly. That's just dumb. You're building the damn matrix. But there's not enough story yet for me to tell what's really going on, so I'll reserve judgment. Moon Lake Phase 3 preview story was another weird thing. More virtual reality stuff. The art was fine, but I wasn't into the story. There's a lot of virtual reality stuff that I wish they'd get off of that whole subgenre in this magazine, to be honest. But anyway, it is what it is. Chastity and Ezra is it's an interesting visual experiment, as it's all montages of old 19th and early 20th century newspaper clippings and advertisements with story told through it. But I couldn't really get into it for some reason. It might have been because I was too tired as I was reading it. Something Seems Off by Anderson is another good silent story. I liked it. Not as well as I liked the story from the last issue with the AI programming that made you look different. But anyway, Savage Circus is another one of those it is what it is type stories that I've never been able to get into, but I wouldn't say that it's bad. It seems to do well enough that they collect it in trades and sell it separately from the magazine, so there you go. But the best stories of this issue were CyberArchy 2 and Something Seems Off. We give it 3 out of 5 instead of the 3.5. A little bit lesser quality issue this go around. Let's take a look at the art. This is again, I do have both covers, so you see. But we're going to look at the Hildebrandt cover more. I just like it. It's just much nicer. And like you say, it's a brighter cover than a lot of their books. Well, yeah. Greg's, he's getting up there in years, unfortunately. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is his brother already passed away? I don't remember. I think he has, but again, Death Defied. Now, last issue was a preview. It's the same thing starting open, part 1. And it's like, why did you bother? Just put part 1 to part 1. They give you like 2/3 of it, and then they add some extra pages for the thing, and I'm like, okay, whatever, it's there. I just could not really get into it. I'll show you some Swamp God. There's the title page of that. It looks really dark and kind of grungy, but like I said, it's these black guys in Civil War, and they're fighting this thing in the swamp. It has a very Tom Mandrake look to it, with just really dark coloring, and I wish the coloring was a little bit more bright, but it is happening at nighttime. So, yeah, Tim did pass away. Okay. I thought he did. This is Adrian James. This is not chapter 2. This is chapter 3, I believe. But maybe it is chapter 2. I don't know. The reason I don't know that is because they keep messing up what chapter it is in the book in the following subsequent issues. So I lose track of which issue is actually which. Of course, the dino that stole the necklace is gone across this bridge, and the little lizard people are saying, "No, don't go across the bridge! Don't go across the bridge!" But they have to go across the bridge to go get the necklace, so they do that. And of course, it's a rickety old thing with traps and all kinds of stuff all over it. And they got other traps with fire arrows to put the bridge on fire. And if that's not enough to stop you, we're going to do the roller ball. You'd think that this is going to stop them, but it doesn't. They get across. But anyway, I'm not going to go much further than that on that one. Here is the CyberArchy, first 2 pages. Whoops. I hate when my fan does that. It's all black and white with gray tones. Here's where the woman gets her head bit off, just as she's giving her husband a kiss. Just chomp. You'd think he'd take both of their heads out, but just took hers. And he just kind of rolls his eyes and goes back to work, leaving the body behind. I'm like, what the heck? And then the robots kill the bug, as you can see. And you think that's kind of weird, but okay. Warning, nudity. I'll try and get as much covered as I can here, but yeah, basically she comes out of this chamber completely alive and reconstituted, and she's like, "Oh crap, I died earlier, didn't I?" Oh crap, they didn't get the program fixed. So she's like panicking about that, and he doesn't understand why. Like I said, and it's like, don't worry about it. And then the next day, like I told you what happened already, but it's an interesting thing. But and then when she hits the button to hit him back, it's not just him, but all of the people who died come back as bugs, as you can kind of see. That's what all those black supposed to represent all the new bugs that have been resurrected. And then she's getting killed by the bug, and the robot says, "That's okay. We're in control. We know what we're doing." And it says CyberArchy achieved. I think the writing is okay. It's hit and miss. That's kind of why I've been hitting the average of 3 to 3.5. It's pretty middle range. There's some that are really well done, and then there's some that are, So this story is pretty good for what it is. It'll be interesting since, like I said, this is actually going to be continued to see where it goes afterwards, to see where they take it. Here's some of the artwork from Hildebrand interview. And of course, he says it takes a lot more time to do the work because they used to do it together, and as opposed to singularly. So, and of course, here's another ad. Darkwing will return next week or next month. Which then it goes into Star Wars, which is fine. Like I said, there's a bunch of related sisters who are the daughters of I can't remember which god it is now, but Kronos maybe, I don't know. But they're basically traveling through the interdimensional realms trying to find their father and restore order. This is the Engagers preview. The artwork is fine. The story idea, like I said, I'm not too keen on. One guy has enough common sense to say this is stupid. Let's not get involved in it. I don't want my brain hacked. Everybody else is like, oh, I want my brain hacked. That's going to be so much cool. Then we go to Moon Lake, Phase 3. And again, it's another virtual reality type situation where the older sisters, like teenage daughter cheerleader Buffy fighter, fighting monsters. And then when they get into the reality, it's a little bit different. She doesn't look quite as goofy. She's not using a freaking candy cane. She's got a sword, and she's fighting actual monsters in a laboratory. I don't know if I agree with that statement, North. The last classic pinup artist, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, Larry Elmore does good pinups. Keith Parkinson, I think, is still around. I mean, there's people from the D&D community and other venues that could carry over to comics very easily. I think that are still from that era. She and her brother escape, and they're all tore up and everything. I'm not going to really show that too much. I'm going to go ahead and focus on this. This is the Chastity and Ezra thing, and like I said, it's an interesting look for the what they're doing with it, but I'm not a big fan of the story. Like I said, it has a very 19th century, early 20th century newspaper cut and paste type look. Some of it is actual newspaper stuff, I can tell from the era, and some of it is him making stuff that looks like that, the creator, so it's interesting. But I just don't really see a story in it that really grabs me. Again, newspaper advertisements that's in there, and they're having a story interspersed within all that stuff that you got to try and find the story in. It's a little bit confusing to follow. Come on. There we go. Maybe. All right. Something seems off. This has a very Mobius Vaughn Baudet type feel to it, Richard Corbin feel to it. It's a silent story. The guys basically hauling his wagon with this giant monster. Um, the female person standing here watches this and come as the thing approaches, and she basically just she whacks that character, kills him. Her Cro-Magnon buddy uh, helps out, and they kill him, and they free um, the being that's dragging the trailer, and then they go in the back of the trailer and they find this like little case that has a Cro-Magnon person's heart, and they put the heart in the Cro-Magnon. And it's interesting to look at, but it's just I wish there was more to it than that, but it's cool, And then last we have the chapter 10 of the Strange Circus, I think it's called, or Savage Circus, pardon me. And the artwork is good for their story. I was never really keen on to. Ladies like classic bombshell pinups. Okay. All right. Well, again, I think there's people who can do that. I don't know. It's. I would say that Greg still is the old-fashioned style in terms of traditional methodology, whereas these days everything's done with computer painting, and it doesn't look the same as a result. But I think there is still still have the classic sense of classic, pinups, but it just doesn't feel the same because it's not the traditional materials. I think that's the main difference. Okay, this is issue 315. Let's see what we got here. Whoa. Oh, okay. This is, again, 2 covers. I did not buy both of them this time. This is the cover by Kim Jung-ji. It's supposed to be connecting covers from 314 to 318, but I just wasn't into it. The B cover by Claudia Iannicello was much better looking to me. Released March 23rd. This has 11 features in it total. The first one is The Axe by Joe Troman. I know he's the lead guitarist for a certain band, and I can't remember what band it is off the top of my head. But anyway, he's co-writing with Brian Posen with art by Scott Koblish. Engagers Part 1, they basically repeat what was in Engagers preview and some additional stuff. Swamp God, Black Beacon, Vesture and Crunch, Blind Man's Bluff, which is a short story. Interview with the guy they call the Wizard of Barge. He's kind of a weird, he's a skateboard artist and that sort of, and does a lot of NTFs or NFTs, which apparently is a big thing with heavy metal. They're into the NFT thing. I don't know why. Sneak preview, Stable by Matthew Medney, who, by the way, is the publisher now, and you see a lot of his stuff getting published as you see for stories, and I'm just like, I don't really know. I mean, he's okay. He's one of their weaker writers, in my opinion. Darkwing Chapter 9, Medney again. Savage Circus Chapter 11 by Brendan Columbus, Al Bernuevo. Winnie the Pooh, which we're not even going to talk about Winnie the Pooh. It's a waste. And then Star Wars Chapter 9 by Steve Orlando, Ivan Shavrin, and Seda Temofonte. And the cover, again, by Ianniello, which is much better, I think, as you can see here. I would say this is, I mean, it's not like this is classic pinup type stuff, but if you took one of the figures like this, one in the green in the bottom right, and enlarged that for just one full thing in that painter style, wouldn't be that bad. But anyway, this issue sure feels like a medley, doesn't it? Roughly a fourth of the magazine is stories by him. Again, I do like this cover better than the other one. But like I keep saying, Star Wars is just Sailor Moon meets George Perez's Sirens, and it feels like a third or fourth generation recyclist story. And it doesn't really feel like heavy metal to me. It feels like just something that's in the book to be in the book. Now, the axe is definitely heavy metal. Yeah, that is heavy metal. It's about three teenagers dealing with the typical effed up family lives. Nothing too great, the usual crap at school. Again, no biggie. They're in a garage band together. Who wasn't? But the lead character's stepdad sells his guitar for beer money, and the trio go to the guitar shop and try to replace it, because why would you go to the pawn shop that daddy sold it to and try to get it back from them? But we're going to get you a new guitar. There, the weirdo owner of the guitar shop shows them a goofy-looking monstrosity of a guitar called the Axe. But he won't sell them a guitar, which for $50, which is all they have, I can understand why not. I mean, even the most cheap-ass, broke-down guitars are going to be more than that. But anyway, the kid touches the axe, which he was warned not to do because weird shit would go down. And certain stuff does begin to happen when they leave the store. Later that evening, they break into the store to steal a guitar, and again, the kid touches the axe, and it opens up a portal of demons. Koblish's art is, well, I'm guessing I'm used to seeing him inking others. It's kind of rough looking, but it's rough looking by design, and it's not because it's poorly drawn. It is very well drawn for what it is. I had to go look online to see what his pencils looked like elsewhere to make sure I was being fair to him when I reviewed this, because it was so different than the inking work I've seen him do on other people. It's just a very grungy looking style compared to what the clean look that he does as an inker for other pencilers. Yeah, it's called Winnie the Pooh, and I'll show it to you in a little bit, North. All in all, very good start. Engagers does absolutely nothing for me. Like I said, who makes an AI app that's basically the Matrix? And of course, what is the first thing they program for you to experience? Zombie apocalypse. Blech. Swamp God, more of the usual from Mars and Company. Nothing much more than that for me to say. I do think this was the concluding chapter, though, so hopefully we can move on to something more interesting than that in the future. Black Beacon, Chapter 6, good closing chapter. I may go back and reread the whole story now. Vassar and Crunch was pretty blah. It goes through the motions. It's pretty much Conan, a Conan knockoff, and a Robot Man from Doom Patrol knockoff, pretending to be Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, only not nearly as well written as any of that stuff. The interview article in the store, who's the interview with? Again, I forget. Let me look real quick. The Wizard of Barge. Okay, yeah. I don't know who the artist is to actually care. I guess he's doing, like I said, some NFTs for the company in the future. I don't really care. The stable preview didn't show me much of anything either. Darkwing was fine. The reveal at the end of the chapter, which is that everybody's body's stuck in the Matrix and they're all on one thread. Again, they're stuck on these tropes that they need to get rid of. It wasn't much of a real reveal for me. It's not that it's negative, but it's nothing of note either. And finally, Savage Circus concludes. I'm looking forward to seeing what replaces it. Not that the story was bad, but I just wasn't into it. Well drawn, but story-wise, meh. Winnie the Pooh, again, no value of me. I didn't even finish it, but I will show you it real quick. It's a prose fiction story with some pinups, or spot illustrations, rather. Star Wars Chapter 9, it's there. The Star Wars sisters get to their destination of origins, remember their origins, their father, and how he dies. And now the climactic battle begins. Yay! 2 more chapters of this to go. Overall, only the axe stands out in this particular issue. At least Smoke God and Savage Circus have concluded, and so did the other one that was six Black Beacon. But I do hope they come up with better concepts than Medneys to replace them. This is a 3-star issue. Yeah, that's, been there, done that. So let's take a quick look. More of Koblich's art for the axe. Looks pretty decent. But, you can see it's kind of a roughish style. If you're familiar with his inking work on other artists, it's much, much sharper and cleaner. This has got a very kind of an Eric Larson-ish type look to it, in a way. There's the axe. And that's like leather skin pieces. And the 2 humbucker lines are like demonic mouths. And it's got a bite on the edge where you put your whammy bar. It's just a really goofy looking guitar. He touches the guitar, and of course, it opens up the portal, and here are your demons. I'm going to take that one off pretty quickly because, after all, we don't want to get too risque. Don't want to get taken off the air. Let's see. Yeah, this is the end of the enter of the AI program for engagers. You are now entering Quest for the Undead. Remember that despite whatever you may see, hear, or experience, nothing in this world can actually harm you. Right. And what the hell? I got hands. I got bloody bodies all over the place. Yeah. Just what I really want people to see, Black Beacon's art's a little bit wonky to look at. And the guy is basically being transformed from a human to a different entity by that device right there in the center, there in the orange. It's on his wrist, and he basically becomes a herald that protects the planet from other entities from taking it over. This is the Yeah, kind of in a way. Yeah. Um, I'll get into more with that in the next issue. But anyway, this is the um, one about the Conan knockoff. Like I said, you can see his armor buddy. It looks like Robot Man with a armor on him. He won't take the armor off. So is it because he's a robot or not? I can't really tell. Um, they find out that the guy that hired them to do what they did isn't going to pay them. Instead, is going to assassinate them. So they fight back, of course, and it turns out that they end up killing the guy that runs the village. When it turns out that the guy's extravagancies spent all the monies and the village is broke, so they have nothing to take but what little bit of gemstones and stuff that the guy wears, you know, jewelry, and then they leave. Not much of a story. This is the Wizard of Barge. He does little weird NFT art like that. Nothing really stands out to me as him being all that great, but if they want to make NFTs and make money off the guy, what am I going to say? You know, the article itself is interesting. I just don't really see what's all the big deal about him. Let's see. Keep going. Okay. Winnie the Pooh. There's your Winnie the Pooh. It's all boring prose. The rabbit has a gun that's going to shoot the bear. um, you know, apparently instead of honey, he likes rum. So he gets drunk a lot or whatever. And it's just. Piglet smokes weed. It's just, whatever. Not my thing. Okay, get in the bag. There we go. Alrighty. Let's see, 316. This is the first cover. Again, Kim Jong-yi, and the second cover is the B cover by Simon Bisley. It was released April 27th. Right, exactly. This is the 45th anniversary issue, which to me means it should have been bigger than it is, but whatever. Nice cover for the A cover here. It pays homage to the heavy metal animated movie story B-17. Bisley does Tarna, which of course he does. I'll show that cover in a moment. We start with Cold Dead War, Bloody Paradise by David Irwin, Vasilis Gogzilis, and Lee Lowridge. Basic story of World War I or World War II soldiers fighting undead soldiers on an island. Undead, been there, done that. But it's kind of like fits the story of the cover anyway. The Axe, Chapter 2 by Joe Troman, Posen, and Scott Koblish. The kids are sucked into Sheol, hell off Earth, by the demons that they release through the gate when they touch the guitar. And we get to see some of the humans trapped there. The demons are interesting looking. The kids figure they are done for, but David, the kid that touched the guitar, somehow summons the axe to him, but doesn't get to do anything with it before Noah, the big guy, the bassist, best friend bodyguard, gets shredded to bits by the demon harvestman. but we'll talk about more about that in a minute. Tarna, there's the 45th cover by Bisley there. Tarna the Witness by Helen Mullane and Montos. Well, you just have to have a Tarna story in the 45th anniversary issue, right? This is Tarna taking on Cthulhu and killing him, but because her theme is always change and rebirth, the death of Cthulhu marks the rebirth of a universe, and she gets to witness it. Next is an interview with Bisley, where they talk about the process of making this cover and a few other things in the article. Star Wars Chapter 10, it's, next to the last chapter of that story. Death Defied Chapter 2, just there. Adventures of Adrian James Chapter 3, though it's listed in the book as Chapter 2 in the credits list in the table of contents. That continues. Then they have another Tarna story, Tarna Last Terrakian. It's a preview. I think it's written by Stephanie Phillips, and then it's drawn by Patrick Zerker and some other people do colors and letters. I do know it's Patrick Zerker. Phillips is the last name credited, and I think she wrote the last Tarna mini for Heavy Metal, so I'm guessing it's her again. But it looks like it's going to be a separate original graphic novel to buy and not something that's going to be featured in the magazine. Next is A Tale of Skulls, which is misspelled as Skulls with a C in the table of contents. Whoever did the table of contents page sucked this month. It's by Marko Stojanovic and Boris Bakizia, which is a new feature to the magazine, followed by a preview of Wire Monkeys by Dan Schaefer, and closing out the issue again is Engagers Chapter 2 by Medney, Edwards, Mercado, and Friends. Cold Dead War, like I said, been there, done that. We've seen combat soldiers and zombies. The art is decent, but there's just not enough story there to make me care. Axe Chapter 2 is the best story in the magazine, which is not what I would have expected based off of part 1, because it was good, but I was kind of, I don't know, I don't like Brian Posen's writing. That's the main thing. But Koblich does draw the heck out of it, and Posen is scripting pretty solidly, which again is a surprise for me because I don't like his writing. Tarna the Witness would have been the best story if it had been a little bit longer. It is the best drawn story overall, and it's well written, but it feels more like a prologue to something larger because it's only 6 pages next to the Axe's 24 pages, and it just feels like it comes just short as a result. The interview with Bisley is the standard interview stuff, nothing special really that you haven't heard about Bisley or from Bisley before. Star Wars, I just kind of glossed over it. I'll reread it later. Death Defied still doesn't do anything for me. Adrian James Part 3 improved again from the last chapter, which, is a good thing. And whenever the story improves as it progresses from chapter to chapter, I really can't complain. The preview for this Philip Zarker Tarna GN is nice, but it's not enough to get me to buy something separate because it's just not something I'm going to casually come across at the comic shop. Like Heavy Metal itself, I have to specially order it and commit to it up front. If the store was going to order copies that I could pick up and browse through before I decided, maybe I'd be interested, but if I got to pre-order it, probably not. A Tale of Skulls is well painted. I am curious as to whether it's traditional sepia tone painting or digital artwork. I'll show you that in a few minutes. By Bakazia, I should say. It's a bit of a short story, but as it has that sepia monotone look to it, a little of that goes a long way for some readers, so I'm fine with it being the length that it is. Oh, I forgot to mention they bring another Darkwing Returns next issue pin-up ad in there. Gee, thanks for reminding me. Dan Schaefer's Wire Monkeys preview looks pretty much like standard Blade Runner Shadowrun Future storyline, but it's well executed from what's presented, so I'm not too I'm not sold on it yet. Maybe when I see the rest of the first chapter in its entirety, I will. We'll see. Engagers Chapter 2, I just glossed over. Again, I'm not interested in that storyline. Overall, I did give it 3.5 because of the Tale of Skulls and the Axe and the Tarna storylines. But let's take a quick look. And of course, I got the Bisley cover because I was not interested in the other one. This is the artwork for the um, whoops, the zombie soldiers in World War One. Again, the artwork is nice. You know, I like the art. For what it is, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. But story wise, it's just, you know, been there, done that. Again, there's, you know, soldiers versus zombies and stuff, and it's different as far as the artwork goes. But you know, storyline wise, I'm just not really buying into it that much. Now, I do like if you just pick this issue up for the first time and you did not see the Acts Chapter 1. I do like this. Um, Quick recap, in case you forgot, our kids are fucked. And you see how big they are compared to the kids, and that's, you know, interesting enough. But I love that scene. It's one thing to puke, but then it's coming out your nose too. They challenge him to play the guitar, and if he doesn't, like, you know, jam on the guitar and rock everything, they're going to drag him to hell. So of course that's what happened. He can't play it because he doesn't know how to play this guitar yet, and they drag him to hell. And, you know, Birdman with a whip. And then he stole the guitar out of the harvestman's hands, um, and Noah goes to try to protect him, and of course he just gets completely gutted. Yeah, that's true. It's not Kubert level, but it's decent. Like I say. Here's the Tarna art. Now the Tarna art is nice. I do like the Tarna art. Let me. There's a Cthulhu. And I love that it's all black and white here and not colored. So I think you would lose a lot of the illustrative quality of the line art if you tried to color this. And of course, she does defeat them, and she's waiting with her masters to see the rise of the new birth of the new universe or whatever. Just really well drawn. And then they do a quick breakdown from the pencils to the underpainting, level by level. For the process for the cover. More of Adrian James. If I can just get it there. There we go. She lost her bodyguard friend in the last issue, seemingly to death, but it turns out that she's okay. Here's the other Tarna stuff by Patrick Zerker. And it looks nice. But like I said, it's a separate thing, and I'm not going to order it separate just because it's there. Okay. Alrighty then. Our next to last is Heavy Metal 317. Again, Kim Jung-ji for the interactive covers that are supposed to blend. And what I'm gonna probably have to do when I do the next issue, when I get the next issue, is I'm probably going to take all those covers that are Kim Jong-yi, if I can, and put them together side by side to see how it actually comes out, because I don't really know. Anyway, this issue kicks off with SPU Dolores, Part 1 by Didier and Lise Taquin, adapted by Ivanka Honenberger. SPU stands for Space Pirates Unit, so you have a good idea what that's going to be about. Followed by Adrian James Part 4, listed as Part 3. Again, whoever's writing these table of contents really needs to get their shit together. Medney, Edwards, and Fung do that. Next is Dan Schaefer's Wire Monkeys Full Chapter 1, followed by a preview of Entropy by Christopher Priest and Montos, the first issue of which we will review in a little bit, because that is a separate miniseries from the actual Heavy Metal magazine. Next is an interview with DJ, music producer, comics aficionado Steve Aoki. The Axe Chapter 3 comes next, and of course here is the Hildebrandt cover with Steve Aoki on the cover as the guy with the sword in the background, uh, having to do with his comic book series that he's talking about. Um, Followed by Darkwing, Chapter 10, followed by a preview of the original graphic novel Bioripple by Nir Levy, and the issue closes out with Something Seems Off, Chapter 2 by Chris Anderson. What do I think? Espio Dolores has a very nice visual design to it. The story is about a nun who learns she was left at the nunnery as a baby, and now that she's turned 18 is sent out into the world. But she has a mysterious inheritance, a Confederate war pirate ship. Now she must gather a crew and fast before the docking rights are revoked and she loses all of her worldly possessions. This is still in a futuristic timeline too as well. So I say Confederate war pirate ship. Don't think like Confederate Army or the 1800s or anything. This is the future. It is a interesting start, and the Tarquins have done a really nice job with the story and art. Hefty chunk of story. There's 46 pages of story in this issue of that story alone. Adrian James Part 4. 4, damn you! 4! Not 3, 4! Is a pretty straightforward chapter. Adrian Kay. Kay is her female bodyguard companion, and Says, who is their pilot, travel to the planet Eroge and sneak their ship onto the planet because the person that they thought was their ally is no longer working for them, and the people who run the planet don't like Adrian for whatever reasons. So they have to sneak onto the planet. Art was good there, but the story is a bit of not much happening, and it probably could have been a longer segment than what it was, but with Dolores being so long, perhaps they shortened it. I don't know. Wire Monkeys by Schaefer is some fucked up storytelling. I'm not sure why it's called that as a story. The art story are solid, but I don't care for the very last panel where the lead character, who has just been shot in the face and reconstituted herself because there's some sort of nanotech in her body to repair her now, says she wants to kill herself and go through that experience again. That was a little bit too screwy for me, but we'll look at it in a moment. The Entropy preview is one of the worst previews I've ever seen in Heavy Metal Magazine. It's all black and white art. There's no script. There's no explanation of what the story is. Nothing. The art's pretty to look at, mind you, but there's just not enough there to tell you anything about the project or whether or not you'd want to buy it. The interview with Steve Aoki is interesting. Of course, I knew of him from his DJ musical pedigree, but I did not realize that he's also the heir to the fortune from the Benihana's, chain of restaurants. So it's like, well, hell, you can do whatever you want and never fail, can't you? That's just, you're a freaking ridiculous money man. So now he's going to do this science fiction graphic novel, and some of the artwork related to it is NFTs that have already earned him $4 million as a multimedia franchise, and it's called Neon Future. And so the article talks about that concept and shows you some of the artwork for it. And it's a really interesting interview, but the fact is he would never be making that kind of success if he wasn't already the multimillionaire that he is. And that kind of irks me. Not that his concept is bad, but that in order for it to be made the success, he already has it. It needs to be that level of fame and money and brand name recognition for anybody to even take notice. Next is the Axe Chapter 3. It again is going surprisingly well. I'm surprised that Posen's keeping me entertained because his writing usually turns me off, but this seems to be working still. Darkwing Chapter 10, solid story as well. It should do well when I collect it into a trade collection. The Bioripple preview did not grab me. The coloring on it is weak and kind of turned me off. And I've seen this kind of art style done better by others in the past. And then Something Seems Off Part 2 was solid. I give it 4 out of 5 stars, mostly on the strength of the Dolores story and the Axe, but there's some other stuff in there I like as well. And there's the cover. Again, I picked up the Hildebrand cover because it's just much nicer than the other one. This is the artwork by the Tarquins. Very French, very well done, detail. My camera doesn't give it enough crispness to see the visuals, I think, but just people trying to get their equipment together. Then they flee the planet into space, and this is the first time the nun's seen the outer space. The nun is a redhead, by the way, of course. When she's not in the nun outfit, she's hot, you know. The stuff on here is Adrian Jane's beginning. They have to get on through these checkpoints in their ship without getting caught. She contacts the people to find out that Zell's not working there. And if you don't dock with their group, you're going to get your ship will be seized and all this. So she's trying to figure out something because the person who's in the High Council hates her guts and would just as soon arrest them and put them in jail for life. So they have to do the usual nonsense. And they have to go get in their little sky suits, just like Captain Kirk and Sulu did in Star Trek J.J. Abrams style, and jump out the ship and float through all the stuff. And of course, one of their stuff gets hit, and the other one's got to go rescue the other one and save their fuel and all that nonsense. It's kind of a like, gee, not the most original story. They touch down on the thing and meet the right person and ask for certain favors to get their ship in. Wire monkeys. Again, kind of rather Shadowrunny type artwork. She takes gum and helps this drone bot that's got a malfunction get itself so its anti-magnet can help it float or whatever. Then someone else attacks her. Those little fish are supposed to be, instead of fish, they're supposed to be dogs, but there's something wrong with the implant in her mind. So it shows up little goldfish instead of dogs barking at someone. Because of that, though, the ship, the drone says, "Hey, no, leave her alone." And so, she goes down to where she's supposed to go meet for her deal, and her ex-partner, lover, whatever, has already made the deal and gotten this canister of stem cell technology, and they don't know what's going on with it and where it's going to be sold or anything. And she goes to stop her friend from doing it. Let's see if I can find something here. Now, you can see she kisses her friend, tongues her and everything, and it doesn't really work, or does it? Because later in the event,
what's in a name?
Sorry about that. Had a button for someone else's show to come up. Anyway, as the other one escaped, it turns out that when she kissed her, her saliva had that had a program in it that hack your mind and make you her slave. And now she's forcibly making the person walk to her apartment and give her the stolen goods. So she goes and tries to free her, and she ends the control over her friend, and of course her friend goes to shoot her. The police bot shows up and shoots everybody, blows up the canister. She gets shot in the arm. The DNA of the stem cells mixed with their DNA in her blood, and she's already feeling weird. But the one that is lead character has her whole face blown off, as you can see. And she has a weird experience, thinks she's going to heaven. Heaven says, nope, your body's too corrupted. It's not human enough, not soul enough, whatever. You get rejected. You get sucked down to a different entity. It kicks you back. And her body restructures itself. So now she's back to life, but the other one's still wounded. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, well, what are you going to do to me? Well, I'm going to let you see what I saw. Bang, shoots her dead. And the other one comes back alive, heals up. And the other one's saying, oh my God, did you see what I saw in my mind when I was dying? I thought they told me I wasn't good enough for heaven. And then this weird kind of like Cthulhu eye thingy. Yep, that's what I saw. And I'll show you that a little bit there real quick. So, yeah. And then, like I said, okay, well, now we know what's going on with that. And then, like I said, yeah, that was goofy. Yeah, I know, right? So shoot me again. I want to do it again. Is how it ends. And I did not like that at all. So, weirdos. Okay, now this is the Entropy artwork. And I'll show you some more Entropy in a little bit. But, again, very nice artwork as far as looking at it. But there's just nothing story-wise to tell you what it is. I'm not going to really get into the Steve Aoki article. We're going to cut back to Sun Eater's one of their other books that's separate from Heavy Metal. But this is the beginning of the Axe Part 3. And as you can see, the guitar leaves Harvestman and leaps through the jail bars into David's hands. Oops. Hate that dang fan. He kills Noah. He takes the guitar, uses it like an axe, and splits Harvestman in half. Which you kind of expected when you saw the blades on the one side of it, I'm pretty sure. And of course, they assume that their friend is dead, but he's not. He's just partially ripped open and still there, like a zombie. And he's going to follow the two of them all the way through hell. Meanwhile, back in our world, they're trying to investigate the death scenes and they found the body of the guitar shop owner and all this other stuff going on, and they're trying to figure out who's behind it all. And of course, Mega Dave is their band name, so they don't know nothing, and that ought to be interesting. They're still trapped on the other hell realm, though, trying to escape. But he does learn how to use the guitar somewhat. It's hilarious. He has to figure out how to keep the guitar in tune so every time he plays it, it plays right. But when it plays right, it actually shoots out blasts of energy and kills the demons. They seem to escape back into our world. They're not really sure, but they're back. They at least have escaped the one level of hell, and they go, "Oh, okay, we're back. Okay, what's the run?" And then this other demon bimbo shows up, and she's like, "Oh God, no, there's no God here," and it ends with, "Should I throw my head at it?" Meaning the zombie's going to take his head, which is completely removed, but it just floats above his body. Hey, should I throw my head at it? Like I said, it's definitely Posen's style of writing, but for some reason it fits this much more than when I read his Marvel stuff. His Marvel stuff is garbage as far as I'm concerned. So Darkwing is next, and then you can see all the bodies of the human beings merged into these contraptions where they're all one mind, Hive, Borg, Matrix, whatever. And the pilot guy frees them and destroys all that. This is the Bio Ripple preview. And again, this artwork is okay. It has a kind of a cell animation cell type quality art to it, but the coloring is just kind of blah to me. I think it loses some of its depth and originality to it because of the way it's colored. You can kind of see a sort of Peter Chung influence, some Mad Bomber 32 influence. I don't know if you guys know who Mad Bomber is. Um, but it's nothing that really made me go, I want to buy this as a separate graphic novel, and that's how it's supposed to be released. They have speaking of the Greg Hildebrandt, he does have they do have an ad for his American Beauties poster for 2023. You can go on heavymetal.com website and order that. There's the babes, if you will, and then there's another one he does. If I can find it, and that is the Tolkien art poster of both brothers. So you got two of them. And then it starts with the next chapter of something off. And I do like it. Like I said, it has a very Richard Corbin type feel to it in a way. And I like that one all right. So again, that's the 4-star one. And that is all of our heavy metals. We do have the Entropy book, though, however. So let's talk about that briefly. Entropy 1 of 6, $4.99. Christopher Priest's Ryder Montos is the penciler, colorist Brian Valenza, lettering by Willie Schubert, with a cover by Bjorn Morenz. Released last week, August 17th. Well, it's about Henry Hanks is a mailman with a loving wife and daughter, a 2-year-old dog, living a normal, I should say, and a 2-year-old dog, living in a normal suburban existence when he is confronted by a small red-headed boy who tells him he must obey him. Hanks, confused by this, tries to get an explanation from the kid, and then the world implodes and he is transformed into an elemental being, kind of like a Green Lantern of sorts. He makes his way back to Earth only 8 years after the events that transpired took place, and he confronts the boy again, only to get transported again into space and blasted by pieces of asteroid debris, crashing into a planet in the past, seemingly in the past, and he crashes to the ground, and we are introduced to a female of similar appearance to the alien-esque form that Hanks has now taken on. She claims she's been waiting on him for 1,000 years, end of issue. What do I think about this? Well, it's got nice artwork. It's a bit scattershot with the story, but it's at least partially by design, as Hanks really doesn't understand who he is or what is going on. Priest seems to be riffing, however, from the Hank Henshaw cyborg Superman on one level, or at least it's what it reminds me of on some degree, and the Green Lantern mythology. And I could have very easily have seen this character as a new GL in the DC universe. With that having been said, there's not enough story and way too much advertising in the back of the book for other heavy metal products. 10 pages of it in the back. It's recommended for 16 up. I give it 3 stars out of 5 because there's just not enough to it. It could get a lot better if there's more story in future issues. Let's hope there is. Oh, pardon me. You can actually get to see a little bit of the artwork this way first. This is Hank pulling his dog pulling Hank, I should say. And it's taking its dump, and the old bat lady is complaining because it doesn't matter, you've ruined my yard, because defecating on my yard is going to make the yard not grow right. Sure, lady, whatever. It contaminates the place and causes an ecological chain reaction. I'll need to reset it. Get out of here. But anyway, there's the redheaded kid who tells him, you've been chosen. He's like, yeah, really? What did I get? Do I get a giant check behind the hedges? What? And he's like, I must continue to grow, achieve, evolve. You're right. Lots of spinach and whole grains. You will herald my coming. Okay, got it. Like that hide and go seek. I'm sorry. What's your name again? I am. And of course, there's his wife. And he's like, kid, I don't know what you want, but whatever. And the kid gets mad at him, so all of a sudden everything starts disappearing, like he snapped Thanos or whatever, and all of the stuff disappears, including his wife and child and his dog. And he wakes up completely transformed in outer space 6 years later, and he's trying to figure out what he is, and he just kind of like sits in space trying to figure out what he is. It gets a little more interesting. Let me see if I can. Because he also gets transformed into that before he gets transformed into this is the whole planet being blown up. He expands out of that giant explosion into the alien form. Which takes you back to that scene. I like the artwork, but the story just isn't quite there yet. But it is 1 out of 6, so, and a lot of people take their sweet ass time developing a story. Again, he's gonna fight the kid. He comes crashing down. He confronts the kid. The kid sends him back into space. He gets hit by the asteroids. And then it cuts to the female, who may or may not be his wife, but it's the woman who's been waiting for him for 1,000 years. And like I said, it's an interesting piece of artwork, but we'll wait and see where the story goes on that. Okay, that's everything for today. Not the child. It's not the child. It's the adult. The Henry Hanks is the adult. The child is like the child looks like he's like a Beyonder type character who just sends him off to do all that sort of thing. But like I said, I'm not really sure. They haven't. It's not really well explained in that regard. Okay. Now we've covered Monday. Tomorrow, we will do comics reviews and crowdfunding talk at 9 p.m. The stuff that we will cover tomorrow includes Wraith of God by Aaron Lopresti. We'll also revisit Garbage Man because there's a connection to Wraith of God. The Bardic Verses by Matthew Sumo and Pete Collins and Matt Kreutzer. That's a medieval fantasy comic. Century House 1 by, I don't remember the guy's name now. I apologize. By Ryan Cummings, that's who it is. And then Rumble Kings 1 through 3 by Ryan Cummings and William Allen Reyes and DC Alonso. So that would be what we talk about tomorrow on the show, as well as I'll do a little bit of surfing and figure out if there's anything new on the crowdfunding scene that needs to be checked out. Okay, I'm pretty sure that Graham Nolan is about to release something new or has something that you can sign up for. I'll have to find out. And I know you can sign up for Blood Hunters for Wraith of God as well. So we'll see what's going on with that. Now, let's see. That is Tuesday. Thursday would be what did you get this week in comics reviews. I'll do a little more comic reviews. I don't know what exactly, but I'll also mention what I bought this week. I'm pretty sure that last week's back issue magazine will be reviewed on Thursday, and I don't know what else. Friday night, we'll have Friday Night Movie Talk. It'll be a Lucille Ball double feature starting at 8. We're going to talk about the movies Dark Corner from 1946 and Lured from 1947. There may be some Q&A, question and answer things in the afternoons as well. I'm not sure yet. And maybe the live draw on the weekend as well. We haven't determined that for sure. Bardic versus the cover looks good. I don't know about the rest of it. We'll wait and see. I haven't looked at it yet. I've had it for a while. I interviewed both Matthew and Pete months ago when they were doing the campaign. So, again, if you want to know a little bit more about that before tomorrow, you can look up, look through my archive and find it. Okay, that is all for today. As always, if you enjoyed this video or you think others might, please make sure you hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from my channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. If you want to reach me on social media, I can be found on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, on Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. You can see more of my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube. Questions, comments, suggestions for books to review, that sort of thing. Quoth the Raven, LBR72@gmail.com is the address trying to reach me. And if I don't get back to you within a day or two, either through the channel or privately through email, try me at lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. That is all for now. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.